perfect human being. Only perfect human being is Lord Krishna. We are all like imperfect, right? So basically, we still have the tendency to make mistakes, and that's what makes us human. But what makes us a better human is following these things, having this awareness, and then basically trying to be more mindful, and then trying to have the intensities and the frequencies of these mistakes reducing, basically. So that is a good sign of a very matured advanced human being. So just moving on a bit, when I saw the recording that day, I think he just focused more on that, and then he didn't touch more on how Sukhdev Goswami appeared. So just continuing the story that what had happened, that Maharaj Parikshit was already neglecting all these things, and then he neglected the Brahminical culture, and then he did this mistake. And on his way to back his kingdom, he already realized his mistake, and he was already having that repentance. And then, like, he thought maybe, yeah, he might go and apologize, but then again, before that, he already got the information that the sage son Shringi, he had already cursed as an impulse. The foolish Brahmana had already cursed him that he will die in 7 days. So before the news actually reached him, he already thought in his mind that basically he was already ready, that he was praying to Krishna that he has committed such a sin, and whatever is the reaction for this mistake, let it come right now, because he doesn't want to postpone it to some other date, like the law of karma. So he had that dependence, and he had that acceptance that, yeah, I have done a mistake, so there will be consequence, so I won't run away from the consequence. So he takes that responsibility for that mistake, and that shows us like a lot of maturity. And we can also try to get inspired, like, like if we commit some mistakes, there's nothing wrong in accepting that, oh yeah, I've done a mistake, so whatever is that, I will just face it. So that's a sign of like a very high even maturity and emotional maturity, basically. So when he was thinking of this, then he gets the news that, okay, he has been cursed to die in 7 days by a snake bird. So when he gets this, then he doesn't retaliate, like he doesn't protest, saying that, how can he just for a small thing, how can he just curse uh, for a death sentence? People might expect, okay, maybe he might be banished 1 year or 2 years, or maybe some other smaller punishment. Death sentence is usually given to someone who has done like a very grave mistake, like very very serious mistake. But this was a small thing. But so he didn't basically protest that, no, oh, why was I cursed, and can it be taken back, or all these things. But he just graciously accepted whatever came in his way. And then, so as soon as he got the news, then he realized that, okay, fine, then I will not go to my kingdom. I will already hand over all the responsibilities to my son to take over the empire and run the kingdom. And then he just gave up everything, like all the material duties of the administrator duties and the family duties, everything. And then he just went to the banks of Ganga so that he can spend his last 7 days properly. And when he reached there surprisingly all different types of sages, devtas, everyone assembled there. Of course, they gave like a reason that, okay, they are on pilgrimage, so they were just going by, and then they also stopped by. But all these sages, there's a long list of sages given in Bhagavatam in the first canto, 19th chapter. So I can just read out some names. Uh, from different parts of the universe, not just Earth, from different parts of the universe, they arrived great sages like the Chaivana, Shardavan, Aristameni, Bhrigu, Vashista, Parasha, Vishwamitra, Angira, Parashurama, Utsaya, Indrapramada, uh, Iduma, Idmavahu, Medhathiti, Deva Arishtasena, Bharadvija, Gautama, Pipalada, Maitreya, Aura, Kavasha, Kumbhayoni, Dvaipanayana, Vyasadeva, and the great personality Narada. And they say also many other saintly devtas, kings, and special royal orders such as Arunadayas from different dynasties of sages. So they all these many personalities, great personalities, they all just assembled there in the pretext of a pilgrimage. And when all these sages usually travel, they also travel with their disciples, and it's like a huge uh, crowd of people just moving from pilgrimage to pilgrimage. But of course, here Acharya say that the internal meaning of as in like the hidden meaning of this was these sages are already great personalities, so they could already feel, they already had the vision that okay, at this time and this place Srimad Bhagavatam will be spoken, and this is very important, like pastimes of the Lord will be spoken. So they already had that vision, so they just happened to be there in that place. It's not like a very coincidence thing. So when all these things happened, so finally Maharaj Parikshit, so he gave up all these things, and he said, okay, now I'm going to renounce everything, and then I'm going to fast until my death. I have 7 days left, so I'm going to fast until death, and I'll renounce everything, and I'll just meditate on the Lord. And hearing this, all the sages and all the brahmanas, all the devatas, they were all like very happy that okay, he's taken such a big step that he just renounced everything, because it's not easy. Like all of a sudden, you are in middle of something, and then you're just asked to give up everything, and you're supposed to, your life ends in 7 days. Like what would you do? I would ask. Any thoughts? Like, yeah, you're going to job and everything, and suddenly someone comes to you and says, okay, you have 7 days to live, so what would you do? You can be a bit honest, it's okay. I would go eat yam and ice cream. What about you guys? What would you do? Sorry, what would you want to experience the fullest?
You're always burdened by something, right? You're always dragged into some responsibilities or get some unknowns. But when you feel like, okay, anyway, it's gonna go, why do I care? Well, like all the things that you wanted to do. For example, I always wanted to go to Himalayas on a bike. I would just do that by then.
Nice. Your name, Prabhu? Vishnu. Yeah. Okay. Vishnu Prabhu wants to go for a bike trek to Himalayas. Anyone else? What would you do? You have 7 days to live.
I will go to the country and spend my last days with my family.
Yeah. Spend last days with family.
I'd buy life insurance for
But you do know that life insurance has a policy that you can't take a new insurance when you already know. Yeah, you can exploit that situation here. They don't know about the curse.
The point is not to inform them.
Yeah. So you can maximize the life insurance because you know. Anything else that you would do?
Bangladesh, I think first.
Yeah.
With my family,
Yeah.
children, and to Vrindavan.
To Vrindavan.
Spiritual master to be close by him.
Yeah.
Family.
That's nice.
Sitting on the bank of the Yamuna, maybe. Together make gifts and my last breath.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a really nice spectrum of answers. Because it's really important because that's what Parikshit asks here when he sits down in meditation. Like when he sits down, that after giving up everything, he asks the same question to the sages, that what should be the duty of any person, and especially he says, especially what is the duty of a person who is dying. So this is the question that he asks, and the brahmanas, they were all very very happy to hear this, because not everyone asks this type of question, like what I should be doing right now in my human life, and especially when I'm about to die, what is that is the really the most important thing that you would do. Because everyone, when this situation is given to them, so they will just live all these things, and they will just think about what is the dearmost thing to them, right? Like we said, family, spend time with family and doing some things, but no one just said, okay, I'm going to finish the last task in the sprint that was there for me in the office, or I'm going to put the last mail to my manager or something. Because all those things are secondary things, but we often try to focus so much on all these other things that we neglect the main purpose of the life, that is the main duty of the life. So here, if we go a bit more in the story, let me find that verse for you. Yeah, it's in the 24th verse. So he says, I'm just reading the translations for you, because I think we are running short of time. So Parikshit Maharaj says, "O trustworthy Brahmanas, I now ask you about my immediate duty. Please, after proper deliberation, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, not just in the circumstances that he's about to die, but in all circumstances." And uh, and he says specifically for those who are just about to die. And Prabhupada says in this verse that the second question is much more important, where he's focusing on someone who is about to die. Why this becomes interesting is because, fortunately, Parikshit knew what was his last day, but we don't know. Yeah, that's the harsh truth. It might sound a bit pessimistic, but if you just sit down and deliberately think about it, we don't know what time is our last day, what is our last minute. Anything can happen the next hour, next day, next year, next maybe 100 years. Who knows who's going to live 100 years from in this room. But we don't know the question when we are about to die. So this becomes really more interesting, that we have to keep doing whatever this question is asked by Parikshit. And all the sages, they all unanimously agree on to one conclusion, that is basically to do devotional service to Lord Hari. And basically, Parikshit already knew this answer. Like he already knew, because a person in of that caliber, of that maturity, he already gave up all the things. Like he didn't say, okay, fine, I'm going to go for the last sport, or I'm going to spend time with family or something. But he already gave up all these things. That means that he already knew what was supposed to be done. But still he asked this question, because it has to be like how they say, some things are just written down, like in permanent, like it's not just a word of mouth. That like basically he wanted it to be in writing, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, that basically all the sages, all of them from different from the different backgrounds, everyone were there in that gathering, from Narada to Vyasadeva, to everyone were there basically. So everyone unanimously agrees to this aspect of surrenderance to Lord Hari, and is the basic duty of anyone that's supposed to be done. And to perform devotional service is the ultimate duty, or the most immediate duty that one has to do when he's about to die. So he asked this question basically to have this in records. Otherwise, some people might think, if it was not written down, or if it was not unanimously agreed, then in near future people will think, okay, it is just one interpretation of one sect of people, there is another interpretation of another sect of people, and they will try to draw different conclusions of what should be the duty of a human being. To avoid all these confusions, so he asked all the sages from all sects, all backgrounds are there. So he asked this question so that everyone can unanimously agree on this, and there'll be no debate as such. Okay, for us it is different, for you it is different. No, it is just one separate, one unique uh, conclusion that it is to be remembering and surrendering and practicing devotional service to Lord Hari. So this removes all types of conclusions, different types of interpretations and conclusions. Now, when this question was asked, uh, then basically at that point, Sukhdev Goswami appeared, and Sukhdev Goswami is basically the son of Vyasadeva. And here there's like a beautiful description that is given in Bhagavatam, like how he looked. And basically Shukadev Goswami was like an Avdus Brahman, so he had like no clothes, and he was completely renounced from the time of his birth. In fact, even his birth was a very mystical one. Like he stayed in his mother's womb for 14 years. So like it's not like 9 months like how we see, but he just stayed in the womb because he already knew that as soon as he comes out, the Maya will, entice him, and there is no point in coming out, and there's no point in doing any other activities in this world. But it is just to remember and meditate on Lord Hari, and he was happily doing it in his mother's womb. But like, so he didn't come out, and then Vyasadeva had to do lot of things and convince people, and finally the story comes out like, okay, he finally takes birth, and then as soon as he takes birth, he just immediately leaves. He doesn't ask, okay, who is my family, what I should be doing, who is my relatives. He doesn't ask any of these things. He just starts out, and he starts walking out of the home, and he just goes off wandering. And once when he is going off, then he hears some pastimes of Krishna, especially two, I think, woodcutters or farmers. They will be discussing pastimes of Lord Hari, like especially on of pastime of the Krishna giving deliverance to Putana. So they will be discussing this pastime, and when Sukadev Goswami hears this, then he becomes very curious as to who this is, and he starts asking all these questions, and tell me more about these pastimes. And then they say, okay, your father, Vyasadeva himself knows all these things. You should go back and ask all these questions to him. And he comes back, and Vyasadeva gives all the knowledge, and the story continues. And then again he lives. But again, now somehow Shukadev Goswami happens to be at the same gathering. Like he just walks, he's just wandering from here and there. He doesn't have a house, he doesn't have a family, he doesn't have any possessions, he doesn't even wear clothes. He's basically an avadhuta. So I'll just read this beautiful explanation of given in this Bhagavatam. The son of Vyasadeva was only 16 years old. His legs, hands, thighs, arms, shoulders, forehead, and other parts of the body were all delicately formed. His eyes were beautifully wide, and nose and ears were highly raised. He had a very attractive face, and his neck was formed and beautiful like a conch shell. His collarbone was fleshy, his chest broad and thick, his navel deep, and his abdomen beautifully striped. His arms were long, and curly hair were striven over his beautiful face. He was naked, and the hue of his body reflected that of the Lord Krishna. He was blackish and very beautiful due to his youth. Because of the glamour of his body and his attractive smiles, he was pleasing to women. Though he tried to cover his natural glories, the great sages present there were all expert in the art of physiognomy. And so they honored him by raising their seats. So yeah, so he was just wandering, and this beautiful description of Shukadev Goswami is given, that he had this blackish hue like Lord Krishna, and then he arrived at this gathering. And as soon as he arrived, basically here they say, I think maybe a verse before, Um, mm, yeah, so basically in the verse before I started reading, the description gives that he did not like manifest any signs that he belonged to any civilized class of men. So basically, if you see like a beggar, or if you have gone to India, you might see more of these scenes that if some people are just mad, they're just roaming around on the streets. They usually look very ugly, and because they haven't taken baths, they have like matted hair, and they have very torn clothes, and they will be stinking, and because they don't take bath, and it's a very awful scene to be there. And also, like, you feel a bit saddened to see their particular state, that they're living in such a like a low life conditions. Like, you will feel like, okay, how can I help? That would be the first impression of anyone who is just like mad, like just roaming around on streets. But that is the irony here, that Bhagavatam tells that although Sukhdev Goswami was roaming around like that, but still, you see the description that's given, that he's just so beautiful, and like he's just effulgent, and he has a blackish hue, and all the he has a beautiful smile and very beautiful big eyes and everything. So although he is like in an incognito mode, that no one should identify him, everyone should think maybe he is just a wandering person, like a madman. But still, all the sages, everyone, they could already knew they already knew that this is Shukadev Goswami, and he's a very exalted person. So everyone just got up from their seats in respect to offer respect and obeisances. And once he arrived, Shukadev Goswami, he arrived here. Then again, Parikshit Maharaj, he offered prayers, and he offered a seat, like a Vyasasan, to sit for Shukadev Goswami to sit down. And then he asked the same question again. So he tells, but he just frames it in a very not a very different way, but again it's the same essence basically. Once he offers prayers and obeisances, Maharaj Parikshit, he says that, please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. O powerful Brahmana, it is said that you hardly stay in the houses of men long enough to milk a cow. So this was his last request, or the first ask from Maharaj Parikshit to Shukadev Goswami, that what he should be doing. And yeah, so this episode ends, and this is the last part of the 19th chapter, and basically also the ending of the first canto. And Sutta Goswami ends this episode with like a cliffhanger. Like, he says that the king thus spoke and questioned the sage. The sage here is Shukadev Goswami, using sweet language. Then the great and powerful personality, the son of Vyasadeva, who knew the principles of religion, began his reply. So he just lives in the cliffhanger, and then it goes on to the second canto, when Shukadev Goswami starts talking and answering to his question, basically. So that was basically the episode of how Shukadev Goswami entered this arena, or this gathering of sages. So also in this whole episode of Parikshit getting cursed, then his repentance, and then basically after knowing what he has to do, then we can derive also some three lessons from it. So basically, first thing is basically to adjust our expectations. So we always expect things to happen in a certain way in life, because we want that control, that we want to plan some things and it has to happen the same way. But often it doesn't happen. So, and that leads to a lot of frustration. So basically, it is basically adjusting the expectation. That's exactly what Maharaj Parikshit also did. Basically, he also knew that he committed a mistake, and he accepted, and then basically he adjusted the expectation that, okay, whatever reaction has to, let it come now, and let it not go for somewhere else, and I will take that responsibility. So he just lowered the expectation. So he was not disappointed when the news reached to him that, okay, he has 7 days to live. And second thing is basically the acceptance of the situation. And as soon as he received that news that okay, he'll be dying in 7 days, so he immediately renounced. Like he accepted, okay, I was anyways expecting some reaction, and this is my reaction, and he didn't protest. So he accepted that situation, and he immediately renounced everything. So he didn't take the curse to his heart. Like he didn't feel bad about it. Like ironically also, he actually felt it as an opportunity that Lord has been very merciful, that he forcefully cut all his entanglements to this material world, that is like family, administrative responsibilities. So he was happy that Krishna placed him in a situation where it was very easy for him to cut all these material distractions and just focus on one thing, because usually when we encourage people to take up more spiritual responsibilities, spiritual activities, do their sadhana, everyone says, yeah, I have this responsibility, I have work, I have family, I have this, I have that, and a lot of other things. But of course there is a balance that is required, but that should not compromise the spiritual sadhana as well. So basically here Krishna is putting in such a situation for his dear devotees, that for pure devotees, they always think that okay, whatever situation comes, it is by the arrangement of Krishna, that he's giving an opportunity to cut all these things, all these different reversals in life, all the crises that we get, financial crisis, or a relationship crisis, or family crisis, or career crisis, or all these different crises, or Keshav Maharaj terms it like life quakes, like how we have earthquakes. So he says all these kind of situation, maybe losing a job, or losing a loved one, or something else happening, very unexpected things that gives us a lot of sadness. So he tells all these things are life quakes, and we pure devotees, they take this as like a blessing of the Lord. And like how also Queen Kunti tells all different types of life quakes that came in the life of Pandavas, they were all just opportunities to remember Krishna more and more, but it was not like for them to just suffer. That was not the whole goal of that situation, but the goal was to connect more. And that leads to the third point, that's what Arjuna, that's what Parikshit here did, was basically he accepted that situation, and basically he aspired for connection. So once he renounced all the things, he said, okay, I'm going to fast till my death, the whole 7 days, and basically I will aspire for connection. So I will just think about the Lord's lotus feet and nothing else. And he said, okay, I'll just sit in this meditation and I will just try to connect with Lord Krishna until I die. So that is the way that we try to also connect with the Lord when we accept the situation. And that's how also what Damodar Prabhu in the last class was telling, the reformation of heart by more spiritual practices. And that's how the connection establishes to the divinity basically. And that happens from our spiritual sadhana. It could be chanting, then reading Bhagavatam, reading Bhagavad Gita, then coming to satsangs like this, participating in kirtans, doing some seva, and of course going to holy dhams, yatras. All these kind of things together help one establish that connection. And especially in this Kali Yuga, that is the recommended way, that is Harinam Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. So basically that's the easiest way to establish that connection of chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share for today from from this episode of Maharaj Parikshit getting cursed and Sukhdev Goswami just entering that scene. And yeah, maybe the following weeks we will discuss more on what Shukadev Goswami starts to tell, because it is a very interesting question. He asked, what is that someone has to do when he's about to die? And out of all the persons, Shukadev Goswami is going to answer. And yeah, we'll know what, basically from the second canto all the way till 12th canto, it is the answer to this basic question of what is one supposed to do. Yeah, thank you for listening. Hare Krishna. Any comments, thoughts, questions?
You mentioned foolish Brahman cursed him already. Why do you say foolish? He has a reason to curse, right?
Yeah, so it is actually said that the downfall of Brahmanas started from this one person. Initially, Brahmanas were very powerful. Basically, he's a young boy. The Shringi was a very small young boy, and he was just playing with his friends. Even though he was a Brahmana, so see, basically he could curse Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit was a very exalted person. He was the king and he was the emperor, and also a very, very exalted devotee of Lord Krishna. So, uh, he's such a person, and this small young boy, he had the power to curse that he could die, and that actually it came out to be true. Basically, eventually, that Parikshit died. He left his body basically in 7 days. So that was the power of Brahmanas because they were maintaining that purity, and his father basically he repented basically also when he woke up from his meditation and he saw the snake and all these things. He didn't actually mind all these things, but he felt really bad that his son foolishly took this act, and because it was out of impulse, it was not out of deliberate thought. Okay, he deserved this punishment, and then after like discussion, he could have also discussed with his father, okay, how can we punish this king, and then what is the suitable thing. All these things, nothing happened. So basically he was playing with his friends, and then I think one of his friend, like, he got the news that okay, Maharaj Parikshit came and he did this to your father and all these things, and then all his friends started laughing at him, that okay, oh, such a episode happened, and your father was insulted, and looking at others, just laughing at him, like he just became out of rage, and out of ego basically, he just cursed that, how can he dare to do it basically. And he just foolishly cursed the king that okay, he will just die in 7 days. And after knowing this, his father actually felt really bad that he shouldn't have done it, because king had a valid reason, or the sage was basically, he was also realized person, so he could know that okay, if something had happened, it was just a desire of the lord that it happened, that but his intentions was not bad, because he knew that Maharaj Parikshit was a very able king, and he was the descendants of Pandavas basically. And he knew that the king is a very good person, and he's a very good administrator, and is a very devotee of the Lord. So such a devotee should not be like punished or treated as that. So that's why acharyas also just term it like that, that he just acted out of impulse and not think of it. And it's basically like misusing the powers of the Brahmanas basically, because after this, then the decline of the purity of Brahmanas started, because that this episode also happened almost at the end of Dwapar Yuga and the beginning of Kali Yuga, because Kali had already entered the kingdom, and Maharaj Parikshit had the power to kill the Kali. Basically, if he had killed the Kali, this Kali Yuga was not even be present. Maybe right now even Dwapar Yuga or maybe Satya Yuga would have started. So he had that power basically to kill the Kali. So that's how Acharya say that because of this one mistake, the downfall of Brahmanas and the purity of Brahmanas started declining over time, and that also leads to how it needs to set up for Kali Yuga.
Order of life that
Yeah, so basically everything, all these things is inspired by the Lord to how things are supposed to happen basically.
Why are all the sages waiting for Sukhdev Goswami to tell the answer to the question of Parikshit Maharaj?
Yeah, because that was the position of Shukadev Goswami, that even though he was 16 years old, he was a completely renounced person. He was everyone knew what was his purpose. Everyone knew why he is here. Shukadev Goswami knew all the entire Bhagavatam, the entire pastimes of the Lord, and everything was there in his full potency, in his realization. So that's why they wanted to hear from Shukadev Goswami, and that's the whole purpose. They were there in that Uh,
They said also Vyas,
yeah,
when he is his father. And
yeah. So that's the whole thing. That's the whole understanding of the position of Sukadev Goswami, that such an exalted soul had taken birth as a son of Vyasadeva, just to give Srimad Bhagavatam. Like even Vyasadeva, he was still a grihastha, so he was still attached. He was still there in his family responsibilities. He was still, of course, he did all the Vedas. He compiled all the Vedas, and he himself is also an incarnation of the Lord Vyasadeva. But Shukadev Goswami here is exalted topmost, like a devotee of the Lord, and always Lord wants to give credit to his devotees. He doesn't want to take the credit for himself, so he lets his devotees to speak his glories, and he wants the limelight to come to his devotees, and that's the whole purpose even of Bhagavad Gita, right? Like, I mean, he says, Arjuna, please fight, because already it's been destined. Like, if Krishna desires, the war can end within a click, within a blink of an eye. He can do it, but of course the credit comes again back to Krishna, that he is the supreme personality of Godhead, so he was able to do it. But he said just fight, and he wanted to put Arjuna in the limelight as the hero of the story. So just like that, Shukadev Goswami is an exalted position, and also acharyas say that Shukadev Goswami is named after the parrot of Radharani. So the parrot takes the incarnation of this person. So it's like the personal parrot pet of Radharani, and who better knows all the pastimes of Vrindavan than like the parrot who's always seeing. So that was the position of Shukadev Goswami. Anything else? Maybe one last. Okay, then we can end. Maybe we can sing and quickly do the Deepstan, because it's a Purushottam month.
Nobody has any questions.
Yeah, sure.
So, you said like, yeah, I'm just trying to think here. You said he's foolish and it has to happen when the Rampal happened. So I was also thinking that if he didn't do that, then the occurrence of Sukadev Maharshi over all of this Bhagavatam wouldn't have happened. Same goes with Rama. If Ravana wasn't there, the emergence of Rama would not be there. Same with Arjuna. You said he's a hero, but he's a hero because Duryodhana was going in a negative way. So I was thinking like, then their presence is much important, right? Their actions are justified. Right? That means they are not really wrong, if you see that.
So yeah, it is in a wrong in a way that they should not misuse the power, but that is basically the magnanimous of the Lord, that he can still manifest Shrimad Bhagavatam if things were different. Like basically the Brahmana can also have the free will of not do it, basically not curse it. And if that happened, then Krishna would have manifested the appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam in a different way. So his plans are so robust to say that it can basically adapt to any of these situations. Like basically a free will is basically yes or no, you can do it or you can't do it, and that is up to the Brahmana. He had to he could do it or he could not do it. But in this case, basically because he did it and things manifested in this way, and this kind of story manifested and Srimad Bhagavatam came into place. But it was not like, okay, if he didn't do it, then Bhagavatam would not come at all. It would have appeared in a different way with a different story. Like still, it is said it is a wrong act, because it is for us learning to us that if we have some power, like we don't have the powers of cursing someone, but of course we might have some power or some administrative power of something, but we should not just misuse it, or we should not act in impulse, basically. So we should always deliberately think. Of course some situations are there, we face some situations, we should always like step back and then just think, okay, what is happening, how I should react, and what is in my power, and I should not misuse my power. So that is the learning from it. So basically, if you can justify the same way that, okay, maybe because he did this act and Bhagavata manifested, that means it's not a wrong act, then basically you can use the same logic to justify all the wrongdoings. Like, for example, Ravana, he kidnapped Sita. So basically, if Sita was not kidnapped and all these things, then the whole Ramayana would not have happened, and Ram and Hanuman wouldn't have even met in the story, basically. So, but that does not give us the license that, okay, we can go kidnap someone and then things will manifest like that. So it is just a learning for us that how we should behave from these stories, or take inspiration from these stories, that, okay, these are not things that are supposed to be done as a human being. I don't know if that answered. I tried to frame it. But yeah, if it is still not convincing enough, then we can still have a chat after this. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Then I think, can Shampru, you would like to sing, or yeah, we can start with Narsimharti and already start with the 7.